Welcome to r/Entitled Kids, where a spoiled brat gets her birthday party ruined by a food fight. A little bit of background first. When I was younger, it was just my mom and I, which was pretty peaceful. When I was about 9 or 10, my mom somehow got in touch with a man she had a crush on in college. They started talking and their relationship began to sail. They got married and moved in with us. With him was his daughter and son. We don't get along. So this story takes place on Mother's Day. I was 12 at the time and had been saving up money to take her out for a nice lunch and dinner. We leave early in the morning while my stepsister is still asleep. We go out and have a great day. I always like to spoil my mom on occasions like this because now it's one of the only times we can just spend time together without anyone else there. So we get home around 8 with shopping bags in tow. As soon as we put our things down and start taking off our shoes, a loud "ahem" comes from the stairs on our right. There she is, just standing there with her arms crossed and an angry face. "Where did you go?" "We went out to lunch and dinner. Why?" My stepsister looks at me with a disgusted face and says, "Wow, thanks for inviting me along. Gosh. So?" My stepsister rolls her eyes and holds out her hand. "Where are my things? If you get something, that means I get something." I bought these things along with lunch and dinner with the money I saved. Anyway, I did it because it's Mother's Day. It has nothing to do with you anyways. My stepsister stomps back upstairs in a huff. I hope that's the end of it, but knowing her, it's only the beginning. So the next day comes around and I'm woken up by loud yelling. I get up and see what the hell's going on. I walk downstairs and hear my stepsister yelling and screaming at my mom and stepdad about since I got things, it's only natural for her to get something. My mom tries to explain that I bought everything with my own money and that she needs to calm down. My stepsister must have noticed me coming down the stairs because she storms over to me. I should mention that she's a little over a year older than me and is much bigger than I am, which she uses to her advantage. She looks at me and says, "Get me something," which really confused me. "Well, you got her something, so now it's my turn." Obviously, I say no, and that if she wanted something, she should get a job. This somehow offended her, so she bursts out crying, saying how I'm a spoiled brat who gets whatever I want and runs to her dad. Sadly, back then, stepdad was wrapped around my stepsister's little finger and didn't know how to say no to her. She went as far as to lie about me stealing her money, and how I never get punished while she's always in trouble. Considering how she acts, it's no surprise why she's always in trouble. As this tantrum plays out, my mom had already left for work, which left me alone and no one to help. My stepdad took my stepsister's side and decided that all the money I'd saved up was hers for the taking, and I was to be severely punished for taking her money and spending it selfishly. My stepsister smirks at me like she's won. At that moment, she did win. I had to hand her the remainder of the money I didn't spend when out with my mom. As soon as she got it, she immediately went out to spend every last cent of it. I got yelled at by stepdad and was sent to my room with no lunch or dinner. When my mom came home from work, I told her what had happened and she was furious. She sat down with stepdad and chewed him out for not allowing me to explain my side and for giving stepsister my money. Stepdad's face goes pale as he looks at me and apologizes continuously. When stepsister got home, my mom confronted her about what she did. She brushes it off with slight laughter and whispers under her breath, "Not like that grunt deserved it anyways." Both my mom and stepdad yell at her and tell her to apologize to me, but she didn't. She still thought she was in the right and did nothing wrong. Turns out later that night, she calls her mom, making up a huge story how we, my mom and I, were abusing her and playing the victim card. After that, she would always seek attention from people making herself out as the victim, and us to be the evil stepmother and stepsister from Cinderella. For someone her age, she's nothing but an entitled brat. Our next Reddit post is from Marty360. I was sitting in my front garden with my brother, my German Shepherd, and 2 of our puppies on a warm day when the entitled kid, who was a notorious bully on the estate, came walking down the road and up my drive. He stopped about 20 feet away from us and demanded we give him a puppy. I politely told him that they were not for sale and we were keeping them. "I don't want to buy one, I just want one." I told him where he can stick it if he thinks we're going to give him one. "Well, I'll just take one then." Now, my German Shepherd was a huge dog. Sweetest dog I ever knew. Wouldn't hurt a fly. But she was protective when she needed it or we needed it. I told Entitled Kid, if you can take one, you can have one, but her mom won't let you.
Whatever, she ain't gonna do nothing,
he says with a huge grin on his face. Entitled Kid walks up the drive. I say, German Shepherd, watch him. She stood in attack stance right away with her hackles up and her crown hairs on end. She won't attack unless I tell her to. Entitled Kid gets 2 feet away and my German Shepherd is still just snarling, staring at Entitled Kid and I. He gets inches away from one of the puppies and I calmly say, German Shepherd, get. My German Shepherd lunges towards him and Entitled Kid gets scared right away, runs down the drive, hops over a 3-foot fence and tried climbing a tree. My German Shepherd jumps the fence, gets right up to the tree and bites his ankle and Entitled Kid starts screaming. I walk to the fence and say, German Shepherd, heel, and she comes right up to me and we walk back home. Cut to 30 to 45 minutes later, and I'm still in the yard with the German Shepherd and pups, and I see Entitled Kid, his parents, and 2 police officers walking towards me. The police tell me that Entitled Kid claims he was walking on the street and I made my dog attack him for no reason, and that the parents want the German Shepherd put down. The parents are looking pissed, and the police are, at first, being very aggressive. I talk to the police officers alone and tell them exactly what happened, and he walks me to the parents and Entitled Kid and asks Entitled Kid what happened. And Entitled Kid says he didn't do anything. I tell the police officers to try to pick up a puppy. They pick it up just fine, and German Shepherd is just lazily looking at them. I tell the parents to do the same, and the German Shepherd has the same look. I show the police how she's trained by having her do commands, and she does them to the letter. The parents are getting visibly pissed at Entitled Kid and threaten to take his stuff away from him if he didn't tell them exactly what happened. So Entitled Kid relented and told them the truth. The Entitled Kid's parents clips Entitled Kid on the earhole. The police threaten him with wasting police time and tell him that the dog was doing what it was trained to do. And most people don't walk away with just a little mark on their ankle. Police apologize to me, stroke and play with the puppies and German Shepherd for a few minutes as I see Entitled Kid being dragged down the street by his mother with his dad yelling at him. Been 15 years, but it still makes me laugh whenever I think about it.
Excuse me, I'm here to say about the HTTPS in your name. You're not allowed to use it if you're not in the HTTPS crew. And since we have blank already, you can't join as a blank, but if you want to join in there, you have to be some other character. Please take the HTTPS away from your name.
Excuse me, but I'm going to say that you do not technically own it. I have free will to have my username be whatever I would like it to be. I'm not going to change my username because of somebody who thinks they're entitled to it. Thanks. Our next Reddit post is from ArtDroid. Last month, my mom's boyfriend moved in with us. I have so much respect for this man and all he does for us. The only downside to him moving in is that his 11-year-old son, the Entitled Kid, stays around every few weekends and on most school holidays. Luckily, I never have to share a room with him. I told my mom that no one is allowed in my room without my permission. I'm 17 and I value my privacy, and my mom and her boyfriend can respect that. And he'll either sleep on the sofa or in my sister's room when she's away. One thing that annoys me is his Xbox. He'll have the TV on almost max, and when told to turn it down, he screams,
"It's not even that loud!"
After my mom and her boyfriend talked, it was decided that he was no longer allowed to bring his Xbox and that he'd have to stick with the iPad, which he also refuses to turn down half the time. Obviously, Entitled Kid threw a fit about not having his Xbox next time he's around, but my mom's boyfriend stood his ground. He hates that Entitled Kid always stays inside, so he was hoping this would do him some good. This happened last weekend, and it's the first time Entitled Kid couldn't bring his Xbox. Now, I'm a heavy sleeper. It's hard to wake me up for these reasons. 1, I have a fan on near my face when sleeping, so it's hard to hear half the time. 2, I go to sleep and wake up late. This is because I randomly wake up during the night and have trouble getting back to sleep. Now, 2 things that'll always wake me up are these: loud noises, and this will sound weird, but sometimes I feel something's wrong and it wakes me up. I get that feeling, and I slowly wake up to see Entitled Kid trying to pull my PS3 from out of the socket. I immediately get up and shout, "What the F do you think you're doing?"
"I want to go on your PlayStation. My dad said I could."
I knew he was lying. Even if he did, you can't. This is my PlayStation and this is my room. Now get the F out. I get really annoyed with him easily, and because I'm tired, I'm really cranky. My mom's boyfriend enters and says, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Out!" Entitled Kid runs out of the room in a fit. My mom's boyfriend apologizes and said that Entitled Kid was throwing another fit about his Xbox and demanded that someone gets my PS3 or PS4. Thankfully, my mom's boyfriend isn't a douchebag and respects my property. Our next Reddit post is from Card Fairy. A little backstory. My mom is an invitation designer and I help her with the clients. Birthday parties are a huge deal in my country, especially the Sweet 15 parties, which are the equivalent to quinceañeras. There are girls who save for years in order to have enough money for a dream party. My mom is an awesome invitation designer and we have a very exclusive business. Every invitation card we have are handmade using high-end materials. For this reason, we have quite a variety of prices depending on the amount of work and details put into the cards. We're also very popular. In my country, we also have a saying between people who work in the birthday party business. The stingiest clients are the wealthiest ones. It's a very clear pattern. The client in question for this story is the entitled brat, the birthday girl, and her enabling mom. They are filthy rich. And as per the saying, they're super stingy. So they come up with an idea. They would commission us for about 100 invitations, but 70 of them would be way cheaper. And about 30 of them would be the most expensive ones we have, about $80 each at the time.
Not everyone deserves such a nice card, you know. We'll only give the good ones to the family,
says the mom. Now, this is the part where I have to explain. We've seen this idea before, of making two different designs with fewer of the special ones, but this never ends well. My mom has over 20 years of experience in the business. We call it guest discrimination. It sounds more serious than it is in English, to be honest. We always advise the client not to do this because we've seen cases of guests finding out they got cheaper invitations and getting offended. We always advise the client to just choose one design and go with it, even if it's cheaper. And so, we advise them as usual, and then the entitled brat cuts in.
Look, we're paying you to do it just as I want, and this is how I want it. I don't care about your experience. You're probably lying anyway. Just do what you're being paid to do.
My mom is non-confrontational, so she just let it go. And we made the invitations just as she specified. The disparity between the two designs were huge. Oh well, we delivered them as specified. The day of the party comes, and we hear nothing, so we thought, well, nothing must have happened. Good. Boy, oh boy, how wrong we were. A day later, the party planner calls us in search of blood, asking us, more like screaming at us, "Why did you not tell them making two designs for the invitation cards was a bad idea?" But we did. It was the first thing I told them, and they told me to do it anyway. What happened? Asks my mom. So apparently the special fancy invitations were not just for family. The entitled brat got some to give to her most special friends. At the party, her other friends, who probably thought they were more friends than they actually were, found out they received the sucky card. It wasn't sucky. And they started a fight with the entitled brat because of it. Apparently, it was like the tipping point of a bigger feud, but anyway. The fight between the entitled brat and these two friends turned physical and very violent. It got so bad that they started rolling over on the ground and managed to knock down the table where a 5-tier cake was, sending it all down to the ground. And worse, apparently they also knocked over two servers and the entitled brat's grandma, who fell down and broke her arm. Other teenage guests kinda took advantage of the confusion and started a food fight, as teenagers do. My friend who was the server that night said the scene was brutal. The party was pretty much canceled after 2 hours. We watched the report on the local news on the same day. So you could say the entitled brat got her just desserts? That was rSlash Entitledkids, and if you like this video, then let me know by hitting that like button because it really helps this video grow in the YouTube algorithm.